welcome back to the channel, or hi if you're new. I am Z, your fashion loving bookworm, and today we're going to go over my May reads and my June TBR. So if you're interested, definitely think about sticking around, subscribe if you want, and yeah, let's have a good time. Okay, so for May, I actually am really proud of myself. May has been so far my best reading month to date in 2024. I read a total of 15 books and 5,091 pages, and I was actually really surprised with myself. So I was like, yay, go me. That never happens. I don't normally read that much, and honestly, like April I read one book in total, but I was also traveling, so it's okay. I had to like calm down on myself, like, hey, it's not that serious. Reading is supposed to be a good fun time for me, and it is. So let's get started on what I actually read for May. Okay. So one of the first books I actually ended up reading in May was How Does It Feel by Janae O'Reilly. So evidently it was super popular on TikTok and it was about Faye. So I was here for it. I was like, okay, cool. So for this one, I actually ended up giving this a 4-star rating. This is not a BIPOC author. Honestly, I really slacked with not reading any BIPOC authors this month. My bad, especially because I really wanted to, because like it was AAPI month in May and I didn't read any, and I was just like, dang Z, you slacked hardcore. But yes, this is still really good. So pretty much we have this whatever. What is that word for people who study butterflies? That's what she is. She studies butterflies. She ends up falling into a fairy circle. She meets the prince of the Unseelie court, and he's not a fan. He thinks she's someone who's actually sent to kill him, and so he puts her through these trials in hopes that, you know, she's gonna die. It is a dark romance. And yeah, so the main character, her name is Callie, and she's been obsessed with winged creatures ever since she was a little girl because she thought she saw a fairy. So with that being said, she studies this lunar moth. She moves to a place to study these moths, and that is where all of the thingies start happening. One of the things that really like got me about this book, because if you know anything about fairy lore, you don't step in a fairy circle. Like, what was she thinking? Like, the moment I read that in the book, and this isn't spoilers or anything, but like it's a fairy circle that forms, and that's how she ends up falling into the Unseelie court. So with that being said, I was reading it and I'm just like, oh my gosh, it's a circle of mushrooms. Girl, you don't step. Everyone knows a perfect circle of mushrooms is a fairy circle. Everyone knows this. Like, common fairy knowledge, okay? You don't step in fairy circles. But she did. That's how she went. The prince of the Unseelie court. But it was a good read. I haven't read the next one. I don't know when I'm gonna get to it. Probably not this month, but it was a good book. Then I ended up reading Worship by the Werewolf. That is by Amy Wright. I read that on my Kindle. I'm going to put a picture right here. So pretty much it is so far the last book in the Monster Steals series. And so we have our main character. What was her name? Let me get the reading journal out. So hang on. Her name. Oh, so her name was Caitlin, and the main, our male MC, his name is Reese. And pretty much, Reese works at the Monster Steals app. He's actually a bartender for them. And Caitlin is one of their customers, and it's their love story, and it's super cute. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I gave that one a 3-star. It wasn't my favorite out of all the series, but I still enjoyed it. 3 stars is still a good rating for me. So next, we have, I have all of my books just right here. So the next book I read in the month of May was actually The Broken Elf King by Leah Stone. This is the second book in the Kings of Avalier series. I actually talked about this one in a reading wrap, in a vlog I did. But there's like a fade to, and I don't know why I'm going on about the fade to black scene. I already discussed this. You guys know how I feel. But this book I ended up rating 4 stars. I thoroughly enjoyed the series. I pretty much ate it up. So our two main characters, Kehlani and Rafe, oh yeah, so eventually she becomes this Okay, so she becomes his assistant, and she's supposed to help him find a bride because he's the last of his family, and the elf, like his elf court, is like, hey, you need a wife. You need one like ASAP. So it's her job to help him find one, but he realizes he can't stand any of them. But you know what? He actually likes hanging out with her. So he's like, hey, be my fake wife. And they're like, okay. She's like, I can do that. And then other things start happening that I don't want to spoil any of that for you, but it was definitely really, really good. I liked it. Yes, and then the next book I ended up reading was The Ruthless Faking, which is the third book in the Kings of Avalere series by Leah Stone. And this one, our main characters are Madeline and Lucien. So this one is actually an arranged marriage. She's considered one of the most powerful Fae princesses in their court, and he is the Fae King. People don't like him because he's rumored to be like the super horrible, awful bad guy, and she at first was like, I don't want to marry this dude. I would rather die. And she ends up like eventually seeing another side of him that he doesn't show the public. Like in his court, people are like, oh, like he's a great king, like why don't we don't get why everybody else has all these rumors. But the reason why rumors started is because, you know, how Fae succession works. You gotta the last king in order to be the next one. So it's their love story, and it was so cute. I thoroughly enjoyed it. And because I had commitment issues and I didn't want to finish this, like the series off, because there's one more book in the Kings of Avalere series, I ended up grabbing Feral is the Beast by Nisha J. Tooley. This one is super cute. So it's a captor-captive kind of romance. The characters are Vespera and Farron. Farron is the Feral King. Yes. So there's actually like a joke in the book, and it's like, so she goes, Farron, the Feral King, I ask as he rubs his hand down his face. He goes, yeah, don't laugh. Because they just call him like the Feral King in the series. Most people didn't actually know his name. And so when she finds out his actual name, she's like, Farron, the Feral King. And it was like a little chuckly haha moment in the book series. And pretty much there's this witch, she is pretty much keeping a low profile in the town that she's living in, which is one of the areas Farron is actually the ruler of. And she doesn't want people to know who she is. She's done a lot in hiding her backstory just because a lot of crap has happened to her in the past when people know who she is and how powerful she is. So, but in regards to Farron, he's done his research and he figures out this person is who he's thinking of, who he's been researching. And he needs her to work. He needs her to help him with a curse that he's dealing with. So he abducts her, hence captor-captive kind of romance. And it's their story right here. I ended up rating this one 3 stars. It's a short little novella. They all are. This is the book 2 in the Cursed Captors series. I don't know if there's going to be more. But I enjoyed it. It was a cute, fast little read. And then we also ended up going to read the first book in the Psycho Shifters verse. So I have all of the other ones, but I ended up returning the first like physical. I read all of them on my Kindle, but I returned the first physical because it wasn't the cover that I actually wanted. But with the Psycho Shifters, it's the first in a 6-book series called the Cruel Shifter verse, and those are all by Jasmine Moss. So the first one, you're dealing with our main character. Her name is Sadie, and she finds out that she is the first ever female alpha. So in this, it's pretty much an omega verse. So with this series, you have your alphas, your omegas, and your betas, and there's always only ever been like male alphas before. So she's the first. She's sent, like the moment she finds out she's actually an alpha, she's sent to this pretty much like war training battalion group-esque thing. I'm not really sure how to actually describe it. So she ends up having to figure out, she has to work with them in order to train and figure out how to actually go about using her alpha powers. And yeah, so it is it's a bully romance. They do bully her, they tease her, they make fun of her. They're not the nicest to her. But I love Sadie. I love her character. She's so unhinged and just like she's sure of herself, and I really enjoyed that about her character. And yeah, this book I was cackling. It's like full of these ridiculous like quotes and things. Like there's this moment where Sadie's talking to the other alphas and she goes, "I can learn to piss standing up too, fuckers." And just because she's like, yeah, I'm a female, I'm not like, there's never been a female alpha before, but like I'm not weak. And that was kind of her point for the first book in the series. And then the next book in the series is Axel, I can English. It's called Psycho Fae. So I do have this one in the physical form. So Psycho Fae looks like this. Oh, shiny. Okay, so Psycho Fae looks like this. There's two different covers. One actually has Sadie on the first 3 of them, but these ones, I like these covers better. They're just so much prettier. Like, look at that. Sorry, my ring light, it's on. Okay, but they're so much prettier. So Psycho Fae, something happened. Like, it's kind of hard to explain with the series because you can't like bounce around. They all do have to be read in chronological order. But with Psycho Fae, with the ending of Psycho Shifters, we find that our characters are in a new realm. They're in the Fae realm, and the Shifters are actually at war with the Fae, so they're in the Fae realm, and they're put through these tournaments here in the Fae realm, and they're kind of like, they're very dangerous tournaments, and they have to survive. And they meet an Omega, and his name is Xerxes, and I like him. But because he's an Omega, so alphas are naturally like attracted to Omegas, naturally, of course, and like his Omega scent. But you know, Omegas in this world are pretty much for breeding purposes, but he's a male. So it's questionable. He's not their friend at first, but you know, things happen. This is very hard to explain because it's the second book in the series, but I also gave this one a 4-star rating. And then we get to Psycho Beast, which is the 3rd book. So pretty much we're still with Sadie. This is still her story with Asher, Jax, Xerxes, Cobra, and yes, Asher, Jax, Cobra, and now Xerxes. So then they find themselves in a completely different realm. They're in the Beast realm because of what happened in Psycho Fae. Each, without like spoiling anything, they get transported into a completely different realm, which is the Beast realm, and it's following their story there. So we follow Aran from Psycho Shifters. Aran is Sadie's best friend. We meet them in the very first book in Psycho Shifters, and pretty much Psycho Academy, Psycho Devils, and Psycho Gods follows Aran's story. So pretty much Aran is this super powerful person, and we find out throughout the books as we get to Psycho Academy, and because of what happened at the end of Psycho Beast, Aran's now put into an academy that's full of like these super elite beings, and they have to figure out how to survive and hone their powers. Okay, so I got cut off, my battery died. But with Psycho Academy, I ended up rating this one a 4 stars as well. Following Psycho Academy, we then go into the 5th book, which is actually Psycho Devils, right here. And I'm really trying really hard not to spoil any of these because it's such a good series. It's very underrated. I don't think I've heard anybody ever talk about it. And I really only picked up the first book because I found it on TikTok where there was a quote where these doctors were surrounding Sadie and they were asking if she's dead, and she pops up and she goes, "Not dead yet, bitches," and she has like a little duck face and peace sign, and she's like, And I literally picked up the series just because of that quote. So don't want to spoil anything, but so on to Psycho Devils. This is still following Aran and characters we ended up meeting in Psycho Academy, and those characters are going to be John Luca, Orion, Corvus, and Scorpius. So we ended up meeting them in Psycho Academy, and it's a bully romance. And it's cool because these characters are bi. So hey, happy Pride Month, baby! So we were still following them in all of the tournament events with their training. Yes, with their training to become assassins. Crap. We're following them along in their training, and yes, it's so hard to explain because this is literally the 5th book in the series, but it was so good. Yeah, so I ended up rating this one a 4 stars as well. Oh, this series, like the things they say in this series just has me cackling. So we meet a teacher in Psycho Academy. His name is Lothier, and he's talking to this other character who we meet as well. And I can't spoil anything, but I think some of the things they just say had me just dying. So there's this quote that Lothier said, and he goes, "I hope," I said quietly, "that you die painfully and get shanked up the ass." And I was just cackling because it was hilarious, and I'm just like, the characters are all so unhinged and like out of it. Like they should be locked up in some kind of like asylum, but they're hilarious, and I loved it all the way through. So with that, I actually ended up taking a break from the Cool Shifterverse, and then I read King of Flesh and Bone by Liv Zander. I read this on my Kindle. So this is a dark romance. Check your trigger warnings, of course. So pretty much this woman, her name is Ada, she ends up into the King of Flesh and Bone's kingdom, and he is like, you know what, I kind of like you. I'm gonna own you. In every way, shape, and form. Except he can't own her soul because, you know, he has no control over that. So consent is very questionable in this series, so that's why it says, like, look up your trigger warnings. He isn't a good guy to her. Let's be 100% realistically honest. He's not a good guy to her. And yeah, but I still enjoyed the series. What does that say about my mental health? I don't know, but I liked it. And I also read the second, it's a duology, so I read the second one, and that is Queen of Rotten Pain. I ended up giving that one, with King of Flesh and Bone, I gave that a 4 stars. Queen of Rotten Pain, I ended up giving it a 3.5. It wasn't my favorite, just because I really, like, my heart really hurt for her in this book, because he got even meaner. Like, he started being, like, he got a little soft in the first book, and then this one he just got mean. And it hurt my feelings. And I was just like, stop being a jerk to her. She doesn't deserve it. You don't deserve her. Ah. But all in all, still a good series. I liked the duology. It is dark. Okay, it's dark. I also read on my Kindle A Court of Ravens and Ruin by Eliza Rain. So I read it on my Kindle, so pretty much our 2 main characters are going to be Raina and Maz. So Raina is what they call a gold. It's not coming back to me. It's going to be right there. But she's one of those. She's a human in the Fae realm. The Fae have taken over. They're in charge of everything. Humans are pretty much slaves. And the Shadow Kingdom, which is where Maz comes in, they kidnap them and bring them back to the Shadow Court. They were first in the Gold Court. They're taken, brought back to the, so it's like captive. They're taken, brought back to the Shadow Court, and he's like, my mother is kind of crazy. I need you for a specific purpose that no one can know about, because there's a curse going on. And he needs her, he thinks, in order to help solve this curse. So pretty much it's there's no love, okay? In this first book, it's not, there's no love going on. He really is not a fan of her. And she's definitely not a fan of him. No love, okay? Maybe they'll get there. I'm not there yet. Don't look into this. Don't go into the series expecting to fall like in like a romance that happened in the first book. You will not get one. So I read that one on my Kindle as well. I think I already said that. I'm rambling. I'm sorry. My brain is so fried. But it was a good book. I ended up rating that one 3 stars. I liked it. I'm going to read the next one in the series. But after that, I ended up finishing the Cruel Shifter verse, which is Psycho Gods. So we're still following Iran, Luca, John, Scorpius, Orion, and Corvus. But we also get to see like Sadie and Jax and Xerxes and Asher and Cobra from like the beginning of the series. They're all together in this book, and this was a 5-star. I'm literally so obsessed with the series. I devoured it. I literally read this book in like a night and a half because I didn't go to bed, and I stayed up until like 5 in the morning. I was like, crap, just reading this book. It is a chonker, but it is so good. Completely unhinged. So unhinged. But yeah, I don't know. I like a good bully romance. I gave this one 5 stars. I'm obsessed with the series. I even want to reread it all over again. And the last book I ended up reading in the month of May was Barbarian's Taming by Ruby Dixon. If you've been on my channel for any amount of time, you know I love Ruby Dixon. I like an alien romance. I think it's great. So this Barbarian's Taming is Maddie and Hassan. So if you are caught up with the Ice Planet Barbarians series, you know that Maddie is actually the sister of Lila, who is a character in Barbarian's Touch. So she's the sister. Hassan is actually we met him in Barbarian's Touch, and he wasn't a good guy there, but it's their romance in this book, and it was so good. I rated this one 4 stars. I loved it. I read it in a day. So yeah, those are actually all of the books I read in June. It's kind of hard to like explain the very last books in series because it's very spoilery, but they're not interconnected standalones. You do need to read them in order because things happen chronologically. But this one was really good. They become pleasure mates. If you don't know what a pleasure mate is, it's today's equivalent of a fuck buddy. Just so you know. So those are all the books I ended up reading in the month of May. Now let's talk about June. So this month I really wanted to focus on like my backlisted books. I don't want to read a single, so this month, besides like my current reads, which are actually Elemental Fae Academy 3, Frost and that's by Lexi C. Foss and Jared Thorne, Frost by Cian Crawford, Hook by Emily McIntyre. I'm still working on A House of Sky and Breath. I haven't touched it since, I don't know, but it's still on there. I'll get there. And then The Deer and the Dragon by Piper CJ, and then Binding 13 by Chloe Walsh. I'm enjoying those. Those are my current reads. I want to focus on them. But, so I set out to have 5 or 6 books for this month. And that is going to be, books are heavy. This stack of books right here. So I really wanted to focus on my actual backlist for this month. Yeah, just cut down on some of the books I already had because my physical TBR is obnoxious, like myself. So we have Den of Vipers by K.A. Knight. This is a, you know, it is in a sense captor captive. It's a Why Choose, and it's Mafia. And it's based in England. It has to be because they called the cigarette a fag. So that's definitely an English thing. And they had a full-on English breakfast in here. So that is the one I've officially started. I also want to read Icebreaker by Hannah Grace. Everyone and their mother knows about this book. I'm not even going to talk about it. And then I want to read Bewitched by Laura Thalassa because I recently just got Bespelled. That's the second book in the series. So this book is pretty much following a witch. She wants to go to this specific school in order to train and use her powers, but in order to to go and be accepted at the school, she has to do something like really great. So on her quest, basically, her plane falls, she finds herself lost in this forest, and she meets this like old ancient evil being, and he then thinks she's his lost wife who betrayed him. So it's their story. I also want to get to my favorite half night stand. This is by Christina Lauren. So pretty much these group of friends find themselves on online dating, and one of them ends up almost hooking up. But they're like, you know what, this isn't it. So she has to pretty much go through either finding somebody different, I think, or it's their romance. I'm not really sure, but it sounded cool. It's giving summer. Why not? And then I also have Relic and Ruin. This is by Wendy McIver. It's actually a Wattpad book. So like Wattpad does publishing for some books, and this is one of them. So pretty much the characters, so this is what the back says. And honestly, what sold me when it came to this book is one rises the dead, one cuts them down. So on the back, it's Eurus and Leahy Girl. I'm positive I can see the power radiating from the pair of them. I don't think either is aware of it yet. Eurus doesn't even have his memories from before he died. And that was the back. I don't know, it sounds cool. I have had it on my shelf for a hot minute, so I really do want to get to it. And then the last book is going to be Starling House by Alex E. Harrow. This book is one of the books I got from Book of the Month. This is a pretty much gothic-esque book. It's not a romance. I definitely don't think it's a romance. I think it's just fiction. And our main character is trying to take care of her brother, and she ends up working at the Starling House, and then weird dark shenanigans happen from there. So those, and then also God of War comes out this month, so by Rena Kid. So of course I'm gonna be reading that because I've loved that whole entire series. I've been waiting for it from the get-go since it started, since all of them were gonna get books. I have to read this one. I'm so stoked. I already pre-ordered it, so that's gonna be on the TBR for this month as well. But with that being said, I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, tell me what you guys are reading in the month of June. And yeah, what you're looking forward to, any of your fun summer reads, any suggestions you have for me. I love a good dark romance. I'm just saying. Let me know what you got. So, I hope you have a great morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever you are. And as always, be bold, bright, and beautiful, but most importantly, be yourself. That's all I got, so bye!
Yeah, I never met someone like you. Oh, to your mama, she a blessing. There's nothing that I would undo.